20 years ago, my parents left me at Union Station in Chicago as a joke. I was 12 years old, clutching 7 crumpled dollars in my sweaty palm while their blue Ford disappeared into Chicago traffic. My mother's voice echoed through the rolled-down window. "Let's see how he finds his way home, Frank. Maybe this will finally teach him some independence." I stood there for what felt like hours, watching families reunite under that massive clock, waiting for them to come back laughing. This had to be another one of their character-building exercises, like the time they left me at the grocery store to figure out how to get help, or when they drove off from the amusement park saying I needed to learn problem-solving skills. But 3 hours passed, then 4. The bustling station grew quieter as evening approached, and panic started creeping up. A security guard named Officer Cobbington found me crying on a bench, still clutching my $7. He called the number I gave him. My father answered on the 3rd ring. "Taylor residence. Sir, we have your son here at Union Station. She's been alone for several hours." I could hear my dad sigh through the phone. "He's being dramatic. He knows where we live. This is a learning experience." Then he hung up. That's when Janet from the Lost and Found office changed everything. She didn't just comfort me or offer me a snack like I expected. This woman pulled out a camera and started making photos of me sitting alone with my $7. Audio recordings of my parents refusing to pick me up when she called them back. Witness statements from Officer Cobbington and 2 other staff members who'd watched me waiting all afternoon. "Honey," she said gently while writing everything down, "this isn't normal. Parents don't just leave their kids in train stations. I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I know abandonment when I see it." DCFS opened an investigation that very night. Turns out, what my parents called teaching independence and tough love, the state of Illinois called criminal abandonment and child endangerment. Janet's meticulous documentation became Exhibit A in a case that would change my life forever. My parents had to hire expensive lawyers, had to explain to a family court judge why they thought leaving a 12-year-old in downtown Chicago with no supervision was appropriate parenting. The judge was not amused by their character-building philosophy. They lost their parenting rights. Emergency foster care led to the Millers, Thomas and Sarah, who handed me a house key on day 1 and said, "You're safe here. We'll figure everything else out together." Janet kept track of me over the years. Last week, my phone rang with a familiar number. "Megan, it's Janet from Union Station. I have some news you might want to hear." My biological parents had just been arrested for doing the exact same thing to another child, their 8-year-old nephew, whose parents had passed in a car accident 6 months earlier. They were his legal guardians, and apparently their teaching methods hadn't evolved in 2 decades. The kid was found at Navy Pier at midnight, crying and alone, with $5 and a note that said, "Find your way back to prove you're not useless." The police had Janet's 20-year-old file ready and waiting, complete with documentation, witness statements, and proof of a pattern of child abandonment. I testified via video call from my graphic design studio, the successful business I built with support from my real family, the Millers. I watched through the screen as my biological parents finally understood that their harmless parenting joke had created a paper trail that would finally hold them accountable. Their lawyer tried arguing that 2 decades had passed, that they'd learned from their mistakes, but the prosecutor had photos of that 8-year-old boy crying alone at Navy Pier, and suddenly their character-building excuse sounded exactly like what it was: child abuse. The judge sentenced them to 2 years each for child endangerment and criminal abandonment. The nephew went to live with relatives who actually wanted him.